What is up, everybody? CP and SJ with you for another week of Every Day We're Covering, where we talk sports, wagering, having a good time. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there. Of course, by the time you hear this, it won't be Father's Day anymore, but still, happy Father's Day, all the dads out there. The real ones, that is, the ones that actually act like fathers. We appreciate those people, not the deadbeats that are there for a hot minute and not in somebody's life. But plenty of good ones out there, and we celebrate those on Father's Day. I hope it's been a good one for you, SJ.
Yeah, not too bad. I guess being able to relax is always a good day in my book. So was able to do that, so that's a good thing. And then nice sunny day, no rain, nothing like that. So can't complain too much. All in all, a good holiday, if you will. And yeah, we'll carry that over a day or two for everybody listening. If you didn't get a chance to, maybe people got to work on the weekends or whatever.
Yeah.
Consider tomorrow your Father's Day
There you
and
go.
take the day or whatever you got to do.
Yeah, hopefully they treat you right at some point. That's the key. Yeah, it was kind of a weird day here. It started off a little bit of drizzle in the morning. We ended up getting out and then going to the lake for a while and putzing around. And then got back here, did a little mowing, and then it started downpouring by the time I was done there. So it's just been kind of a weird weather day, but that's all right. They have plenty of good time in there for people if they wanted to do something. One thing I did want to bring up real quick, because I think this is always a funny conundrum when people talk about like Father's Day, like, oh, what are you going to do or whatever. And then a lot of people the idea is like, oh, when we get together with the guys and go golfing or whatever. And it's like, I mean, I get it. I love it. But it's like you're also running away from the reason you're a father, too, at the same time. So you kind of look like an a-hole. I don't know how people balance that, I guess. I guess I've done it both ways. I have gone and done the thing like play golf, I'm sure, at some point. But then, lately I put the emphasis on being around and hanging out with the kids in some fashion.
Yeah, I'm usually more of let's fire up the grill or the smoker or whatever and get some yard games out and kind of do that thing would be kind of the way to spend the day. That's good enough for me. I don't need too much extra, and
Yeah.
Maybe on a certain occasion sneaking a nice cigar or something, as long as I'm in my own area and in my own space and not polluting everybody else's ozone there. But yeah, I'm good with that. Just chilling out is always kind of it doesn't even have to be anything over the top. But yeah, that's it is a fine line you got to walk there when you want to kind of guess do things for quote your day, like when it's your birthday, even on top of that. But you also want to be like, well, kind of a family day,
Yeah.
should be at least.
Yeah. And maybe you can split it up too. I mean, there's enough hours in the day sometimes.
Let the kids be the caddies,
Yeah,
there you
there
go. And then
you
you
go.
have the missus drive the cart and everybody's involved. There you
Yeah,
go.
there you
You'll
go.
be good to go. Yeah.
There you go. Well, in some families, of course, everybody loves to do that, so they go do that together. That's fine. Yeah, it's there. Obviously, there's lots of ways to do it, and I think like you alluded to, most guys we don't need much. Like just give me a thumbs up and let's have a good day and not kill each other, that kind of thing. That's all we want. Give me a couple brewskis and turn the grill on at some point. Then we're good.
I mean, I was able to sleep to almost 8 o'clock today, so I was just like, "This is like heaven." That's right there. I was like, "It's going to be a good day today."
That's a hell of a way to start it. Speaking of starting it, we start off the podcast by telling you what we're drinking. And SJ, what are you looking at there this week?
Well, I guess being a holiday, speaking of that, so I went a little different angle. It's just, found a new spot here in town that I really like. So I was kind of not too much, but I was down on the yard beer kick a little bit. So I was like, I don't know if beer, maybe I'll see something else. And I was like, I'll do let's go like a little whiskey or bourbon or something. And so I was looking to see what's available. And I haven't had for a while. I know it's not like, I'm not the snob where it's like I need the $70 bottle of high end stuff, but I hadn't had this for a while, and I honestly think for like the price point, it's actually pretty good. Is that Four Roses bourbon? I don't know if you sampled it too much. I know they're pretty popular with all kind of varieties they make, but I like the bourbon they make, and I was like, one thing I do kind of like to do that's maybe a little bit of more of a, I don't know when you want to call it, like someone that's kind of like that's just more extra, I guess, is the best way to term it with the jargon these days. But I like to do a smoky drink here and there when I do it. So got me some. I got a couple varieties there, but I went with the pecan wood chips here, and you got my little Bunsen burner fired up, and going in, got a little smoky bourbon here I'm drinking tonight. So a decent little nightcap. I figured we'll got the beer pretty decently enough this weekend. So I went with a little smoky bourbon here tonight to kind of cap off the weekend.
All right, I like it. I like it. I got a couple of them sitting here. Honestly, I found one that
That's
I
spot to be in.
well, yeah, hey, yeah, why not? Why not have a couple? Especially Father's Day, you got to do that. I found one that I had always loved, and I hadn't seen it for a while. I don't know whether it's just distributor didn't drop off this variety in this location for a while, kind of thing, or whatever. But the old folks at Confluence Brewing Company in Des Moines, they have one called Southside Citra, which is a blonde ale. It's with the old Citra hop variety, so it's got a little bit more of that tropical note going on to it. Always loved this beer, and I stumbled upon it again, so grabbed some of those. So that's an old standard. Now the other one that I've had in the fridge that I've been looking for, SJ, and I think we talked about just seeing it in an advertisement before, but I finally got a hold of some of it. That Boulevard Easy Orange. I did track it down, and it's a good one. The Blood Orange Ale. Yeah, not upset at all about this one. I didn't really know kind of what to expect, if it would be more, obviously when you think Boulevard, you immediately think Boulevard wheat, so it kind of gets stuck in your head a little bit. But this is more of just I don't know. It's kind of like borderlines really between like just a regular drinking ale and like a sour almost, kind of right in the middle, because it's got that blood orange kick, that little bit of that tartness going on with it. But yeah, definitely. I mean, especially like summertime. This is a summertime beer. It's a good one. I can see myself, down in at least 3-4 of those before you get started on something else. It's a pretty good one. I appreciate it.
Yeah, since you mentioned Boulevard, I would steer you too also because I picked one of these up between shows, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's like, as whatever, as a couple bucks for a single, and I was like, oh, I'll check it out because I mean, when you're trying something new, we've mentioned it several times. We're kind of both of the mind, so it's like it's a little hard to buy a 6-pack, let alone like in this case, these usually come like an 18-packs, but they make a hard tea now. And I know those have got really
Ooh,
popular. And there's different varieties you can get, just like I mean, whatever flavors. I maybe like a lemon, a peach, whatever. But I just did the straight, hard tea. And oh man, that was I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, that's something I would probably buy whatever a
yeah.
12 or 18-pack because it was an easy drinker, and I think I even used it as my post lawn mowing drink.
Ooh,
That's how refreshing it was when
nice.
I was like, man, this is like yeah. So I mean, I guess I'm always kind of been a tea person myself. Not the sweet version though. I like a real tea. Like give
Yeah,
me hot's my preference. But if I can do an iced one, but unsweet, please. But
yeah.
so either way though. But I was like, man, that is you see one of those. I'll recommend you to snag one of them because it's a nice summer drink there, and it's obviously a little bit less filling, and I still think it was a pretty good kick around like somewhere between like 4.5 and 6, somewhere ABV, something like that. So
Mm.
it was a decent amount of bang for your buck.
Ooh, yeah, I'm gonna have to track that down. I'm with you. I'm a tea guy too, and especially just regular straight up, brewed. Especially if you brew the stuff
Oh,
yourself. Oh
be like
man,
some sun tea or something. Yeah,
ooh, so
you're
good.
living the life there.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, give me that whatever it is, Lipton, Louisiana, all of it. It's all good. Um, the I will say though, I don't know, and I'm priority because you see it everywhere, but I am not on board with the Twisted Tea brand. I don't know. I've tried it, and I'm a tea guy, like I said, but there's something about that flavor that's going on there that I do not like. I don't know. I don't get it. People love it, but I'm not figuring it out.
I think it's a little on the sweet side. That's where I'd go because I felt that way too. Like, I didn't think it wasn't like a thing where I was like, oh man, I'm struggling to choke this down. But I was like, man, that's I don't know. I didn't get a lot of tea from it, and that to
Yeah,
me
that's
that
what it
kind
is.
of throws me out because I'm like, well, it's supposed to be like a tea drink. To me, it just tastes more like kind of like I don't know what do you want to call it, like a mixed drink with maybe like a little a splash of tea in it, something to
Yeah,
that effect. I think it was just I would probably think knowing that you're like me and like just more of the tea flavor. I think it's probably just more on the sweet side because it's a popular variety,
oh
especially like
yeah,
this time of year. But yeah, I couldn't. I mean, I probably tried it once or twice, and I kind of that was about it. So that yeah, I'm with you on that one. Not my favorite option either,
yeah.
but a lot of people are doing the tea, so you got quite a few options. Even like I don't know if you're a lemonade guy, but the Simply brand
Yeah.
has the hard drinks now, and that's one on my list too to try just because of how they use natural ingredients and
Hmm.
real kind of real food, if you will. So I'm always kind of leaning towards those ones. So that'd be a brand I'd like to check out down the line here.
Yeah, yeah, it is wild, like how much some of this stuff blows up after. It seems like after somebody tries it, then everybody else gets in and tries it too, like some variety of it. Of course, another one I just had a friend send me a text the other day. The Good Boy, the John Daly one now, the
Oh,
Good Boy vodka or whatever. And it's a lemonade iced tea thing. So yeah, I mean, you got all kinds of varieties to go out there and try. But yeah, I don't know. I had to say that. I had to be honest with the folks. I'm not a
yeah.
twisted tea guy.
Yeah, I mean, we're not, everyone has their own palates or whatever, but like, give our honest reviews, and that's just one. Maybe someone that same boat we're in tried Twisted Tea, didn't like it. All these ones kind of popping up. I don't think this is brand new, but I think it's like a different version of what they tried before. But I think Fresca is back in
Oh
that
yeah,
game,
yeah.
doing like because they did something more of like a tequila, I think, version before. I think now they're doing more like a seltzer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite sure. I just saw a quick ad on that, and then just things of that sort. Like, I mean, I'm down to try almost all of
Oh
those.
yeah,
It's kind of a good deal there just to have some options, but definitely when it comes to those drinks, for me, it's like the sweetness really kind of it's got to be very minimal for me to
yeah.
kind of get with that. This not it's just too much, especially if you're going to be you know likely probably out and about during the day and it's a hot day. It's got to be more on the less sweet side for me.
Yeah. When you talk about the difference between teas, like that stuff that people in the South call tea is not tea.
Yeah,
It's sugar in a glass.
Brown Kool Aid is what I. That's how I'd refer it as. Because yeah, I
Uh,
mean, even my kids don't put as much sugar in their Kool Aid as they put in that tea.
it's crazy, man. I mean, you wonder why the heart rate or heart disease is up in the South. It's crazy stuff. All right, so that's what we're drinking, and of course, maybe got a little in the weeds on that, but that's all right. That's what we're here for. Starting off with sports wise, we'll go to the finals here, starting the NBA, and the series now is tied at two apiece. Thunder 111-104 on Friday night. Interesting game. I didn't watch all of it. I watched most of it. But the Pacers, it sure looked like for a long time had control of the contest and were going to come away with the win and really get a stranglehold on the series. And of course, you felt like I probably, as a fan, that's your opportunity too, being on your home floor to take advantage of that and push that thing out to a good number for you. Now, I've heard from a lot of the so-called quote-unquote experts too, the talking heads, that immediately now are saying that, well, that just gave the Thunder the series, and I'm not of that belief at all. I mean, I think this is still going to be a great back and forth with these last three games, but certainly, yeah, it was a missed opportunity for Indiana. They couldn't get shots to go, free throws down the stretch that they needed to make. It was just kind of one of those nights where things were not going your way as far as making shots. Ultimately, that's the name of the game, and put the ball in the hole, and that's what wasn't going right for them. And give credit to the Thunder because they just kind of hung in there and kept taking punches and kept building up a little bit of a chance. And then once they got a lead, they didn't turn back. So hats off to them for a good fight there.
It's just, I mean, it happens every. I mean, I guess maybe it says more about who's uh, covering or the people that are tasked with the jobs of analyzing the action, what's going on. But it's like, oh, this is over, it's done. In the third quarter when they have a double-digit lead, I was like, dude, have you watched the NBA ever in your life? It's so like it's mind blowing to me. I'm like, and I get where you could be like, I no one can disagree that Indiana had total control of that game, even late, like into the third, almost beginning of fourth quarter. You're not gonna talking about we're in a lot of, making plays and making bets. We're not taking that money for them to lose. There's no way. Like at least betting wise, there's no advantage there.
Yeah.
You're not saying it's impossible though. That's the difference. So it's like I mean, I don't know, just like I guess it's just the culture of I guess you loosely I wouldn't call it that, but I guess it's still called sports media. But it's just like that's all it is. It's like you just got to be outlandish and make
Mm-hmm.
bold claims to
Yeah.
make put yourself out there. So I mean that's all you can really chalk it up to because yeah, Indiana was in firm control, but as the series, even just this series, but let alone the playoffs as a whole, we've seen it's like, and the NBA just in general, a 20-point lead really doesn't mean anything until maybe there's 2-3 minutes left in the game. Then you could probably feel pretty safe. But of course, we've even seen, of course, if it's more than 10 at that point, you feel pretty good. But we've seen crazy things happen even with that, even with the Pacers, overcoming some, 7-point leads with like 10 seconds left.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. So I don't get why, it's, of course, this is more of a thing where I think if they end up, losing the series, you'll look back and be like, that was kind of the maybe where it got away from, like in hindsight, but like in real time. I mean, you've played 4 games, you've each won 2.
Yep.
You're right where you started, so nothing's decided yet. Of course, it's a huge here game 6 or game 5, excuse me, but the next game, whatever, if it was game 6, that would be huge. The next game is the biggest game of the season. So I mean, even if they lose, of course they're in a real tough spot because then you can't lose again, obviously. But it's still not done. Then even if they lose, and I don't think it will really carry over to the next game. But that was more of the point where it's like, man. But Thunder had the same thing happen. But it's like, how did they lose? Was more of my kind of takeaway. It's like, man, it's kind of hard to see them how like. They actually, I mean, as far as except for that game 2, they've actually played pretty well, like across the board consistency at least. So I was kind of surprised to see that when they, take that outlier aside, I was a little bit surprised to see them kind of fall apart the way they did because I think that's more of what it was. Like, of course, you always credit who wins. They earned the victory, but also it was a lot of it was the Pacers just not closing that game out.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Like, there were a bunch of possessions there late where I just kind of like every time I was just like shaking my head, like, what in the hell did you just do? Like, somebody dribbled around and then launched up a shot because the shot clock ran out. Like, get a look at least. Like, I just don't understand that ever at any level of basketball. But I realize it happens once in a while, but it shouldn't be a consistent thing, and it was for them down the stretch. Like, everything seemed like a tough shot, and they weren't making any of them. And there were even a couple there where, like, I think I remember one possession where Halliburton had to throw up a long 3, and I think it like nicked the front of the rim. Like, what are we doing here? Those kind of things can't happen down the stretch of a game like that for you to be able to win obviously a finals game. That's the stuff you got to get out of your system, I guess.
Well, even just getting inside of the comeback itself, where the Thunder is kind of working their way back into the game and being able to make a run, it's like, I get that most of the time spent from Holmgren is behind the 3-point line, but at the same time, it's like you still got to put a body on him when the shot goes up, and he's just like getting rebound, and he don't barely have to even jump to dunk it. So you just give him a clear path. And it's like, I mean, you're just giving points away just because you're being, I guess you'd call it lazy. You don't know, you're not playing disciplined basketball. Maybe there is some mix up in who's supposed to be blocking who out or whatever, but still, to me, it's just either way you're not doing what you're supposed to, because if you do the little things like that, and let's say maybe you don't, maybe they still get a long rebound or something, but to give up a offensive rebound and like a instant like catch dunk within, what I mean, that those are the type of plays that really hurt you like a comeback, because I think for the most part they've done a good job of shutting SGA down, especially what he wants to do. Of course, here and there he gets points, and it's like you're not going to hold him to like 2 points a game. But I mean, when like in the crunch time and stuff, I've honestly been kind of disappointed with how he's performed, because it's almost like he's kind of he's kind of passing the ball, not wanting the ball, and kind of said, let somebody else take over. You do this or you do that, and I'm like, man, that's not. I understand, like, you got to trust your teammates, and it's not all a one man show, but in those crunch moments, you don't see Halliburton passing the ball, or even what, good or bad or indifferent, Tatum wouldn't pass the ball, or you'd go on down the line, whoever, whatever player you want to name, might not be the best result, but that's why you're the top paid player, you're the star of the team, because you got to be willing to take that shot. And so I've been kind of down on him, but I guess if you're a Thunder fan, you'd be happy that you're 2-2 still, and you got the next game at home, so you got to be pretty confident, I guess, coming off that comeback, because that was I mean, I don't know if you want to call it impressive, but that was definitely they would have been in a real now I would have been at least, maybe meet you 50-50 with, all those, yappers, saying that it's over. I might have been like, well, down 3-1, maybe you got a case then.
Yeah, yeah.
If the Thunder would have not made that, if they'd end up falling and dropping that game, because it did look like that was going to happen. But that's I guess that's the craziness of actually playing the game. Is like you don't know really what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. When you mentioned the stuff like the rebounds too, that's what surprised me was that's what Indiana I think has done really well in this series. It's maybe surprised people to begin with, is they were the ones making the little plays. Like a lot of times where they're really good at timing, like off a free throw, for example, and crashing and getting a board. Like they've been doing all that kind of stuff really well. But yeah, that game they just assignment stuff. They were missing it for sure.
Well, I mean, just look at the bodies that they have to throw at their front court compared to the Thunder. It's like there's not really a reason other than just kind of losing focus or just playing a little bit, thinking you got it in the bag when you actually don't. Because I'm not saying they're like they don't play inside out or anything like that. They're not like going to the post to get their offense, but as far you look at Miles Turner and Obi Toppin even and this, I mean Siakam. They got the people that are like decently pretty solid, if not better, rebounding team to kind of let that happen. That's just more of a discipline thing to me than anything.
There was one play where I had to kind of like cringe a little bit, I guess, for the people that hate the NBA. It was like one of those moments where like, okay, I can see why somebody would be put off right now. But the go ahead shot that SGA hit, driving baseline, like he blatantly pushed the guy. He's fallen down, like drags his foot, takes another step back, and then makes it. Like the shot was incredible. I'm not saying that, like the balance to be able to do that, but how he got there was just like, oh my goodness, this is why people don't like this shit. You're just out of control, like pushing yourself to make room. That's the stuff that people hate, and I guess what sucks, I think, for me usually is not just the fact that that's what you're getting away with, but the fact that it puts so much of a disadvantage on the defender. Like, how are you supposed to play defense when that kind of shit's like allowed all the time? And it's just, I realize that you're gonna let the stars do what you want, and they want offense more than anything else, but at the same time, you got to give somebody a fighting chance to be able to play defense. And that was a moment where I was like, I'm not on board with this. A lot of people might think the other way. I get that. That's fine. But that's just how I see it. And I think that's how people that are put off by the game would see it too.
Well, on top of that too, that's a good example. But what really gets me is more times than not, you'll see it's like the shot goes up, missed it, rebound, then the whistle goes.
Yeah.
Like it's just like the delayed calls are like that. To me, that's more frustrating than anything. It's like, and then to me, I understand you want to get the calls right, but I think there's a little bit too much replay for my liking. It almost seems like stuff that almost anything can be replayed except for what actually should be replayed. I don't, and of course we're adding more replay to, and we'll talk about this later is the lower level in the college game. So here we go again, just be more of that same stuff. So the delayed calls that happens more so than even the example you pointed out, which is a legitimate example, but it's just like, at least if you're gonna, give them the call, just give them the call. Then stop waiting to see what happens and then call it. That's mostly like that's as someone that does. I've enjoyed the NBA for ever since I've been a basketball fan, which is probably as long as I can remember. But it's like I've always kind of struggled with that. It's like, man, just make it's either it's a foul or it's not. It's not a foul pending outcome of the situation.
Yeah, I agree. There's too many of those situations for sure. Since we're on the topic, we will go ahead and go there. You mentioned we are going to have something else basketball-wise, replay to talk about, and might as well get there. So obviously NBA Finals is going to be fun to see those three games and how that plays out. But the college game is moving to some changes that are, I guess, going to be more similar to the NBA. Really, when you think about it, as far as what they're trying to push on a couple of these rules. But the thing that actually was approved is there are now some challenges that are capable. So this is in men's and women's basketball at the college level. There's some challenges that are available now. What is able to be challenged by the coaches is different in men's and women's for some bizarre reason, but I don't understand. But anyways, so on the men's side, What coaches now will be able to challenge are out of bounds calls, basket interference or goaltending, and whether a secondary defender was in the restricted area. Coaches will get a challenge per game. They must have a timeout to use one, and then a successful challenge would mean that a coach will get another challenge. And then if the challenge is unsuccessful, the coach may not challenge then another call. So essentially, if you get it wrong, you're getting one per game, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Like you said, it is it is another wrinkle. It's going to possibly slow the game down, which nobody loves. But I guess a couple of those things I do appreciate that we can take a look at now, because how many times have we seen, especially when it comes to the basket interference goaltending stuff, that seems to become very relevant here these last few years. Obviously, guys are taller, guys are more athletic. That stuff happens all the time. So that's one that probably does need a chance to be looked at in some big moments especially. But I guess your thoughts on coaches being able to do that.
I mean, I guess I do like that part of it being, kind of the one, I guess the one option, and then that's kind of it, deal or whatever. But I mean, I just seemed like we had a lot of slow in the pace already. I did see this is, I guess, related, but a little different. Is there's some movement to go to the fourth quarter, which so that may change things too, because I don't know if this covers the official reviews, if that's still going to be a thing or anything like that, where it's like kind of like NBA will go back later and change a 2 to a 3 or 3 to a 2, depending if they're on the line, but they can't look until there's like a media or official timeout.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be kind of into that quarter thing there, because I know that was the big thing, at least from the reporting I saw, was they're worried about still getting their breaks and their ads in. Of course, that's the thing that matters, not getting not like the flow of the game or actually like playing the basketball how everybody else on the planet plays it. But it's got to be, are we getting that revenue or not?
Yeah.
I mean, guess whatever, it is what it is. I already kind of said I don't think there's a little too much replay, but if it's the replay about like the things that actually like affect the game and like kind of makes sense, I'm good with it. It just seems like there's too many things that are like looked at that it seems like a clear cut call, and then they're looking at it, and then something's like, oh, went out of bounds off that player. Oh, sorry, it can't be reviewed though.
Yeah.
That's what I don't get. It's like it's almost like they pick and choose the spots.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it should be a thing where it's like, I don't mind the challenge thing where like if you get one then you lose it. But the thing is, like, it should be almost like the football is, where it's automatically, if automatically they see something, then they buzz down to the refs or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like it was no, you got that call wrong. It was actually off the other team, or they touched it last.
Yeah.
That should be like a quick thing, like, oh, sorry, it got switched. Let's keep going. We don't need because I mean, that's the biggest issue. It's like NBA is pretty bad, but college is worse when with the delay of the game and how long it takes them to finally make a call, right? Even just watching some of I know we'll touch on this later too, but just some of the baseball and the College World Series thing with how they do their replay and thing. Even caught some of the softball with the women's game. Like it takes a long time for them to kind of get, and it's even off site. They're not even reviewing it there wherever the game's being played. It's a control center or whatever, and then just have an earpiece and they can hear what they're saying. So for it to be decided off site and still take that long is, I don't know. It just kind of, to me, that, I mean, you want to get the call right, of course. We always say that, but it's like that really kind of, I mean, are you getting a benefit if they switch the call, but it's 20 minutes later?
Yeah.
Kind of take whatever momentum you might have had. I mean, you make a big play and you get a steal or something, or you have a turnover. It's like, then how many times do you see it? Whatever the sport is, you go right at the defense and you make a big play, because it's kind of like that. You're doing like that shock thing. You're going right after him after a big play, but you got your play ready to send in, and it's like, oh, hold on, we got 15-minute delay, and then by that time it's like the defense is adjusted, they've calmed down. No one's like kind of panicking. And then that whatever momentum that you might have gained from earning that edge is just gone. So that would be just the biggest thing, is just get it right, but also like there's got to be some type of system where you can do it a little bit faster than how it's been going lately.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. On just a note on the women's side, coaches will be able to challenge out of bounds, backcourt violations, whether the correct player was called for a foul, and whether a change in possession occurred before the ruling of a foul that leads to free throws. So a little bit more leeway there, apparently. Women's coaches, by the way, won't need a timeout to challenge a call, but if they're unsuccessful and they don't have a timeout, then that would lead to a technical foul for the excessive timeout. So that's a I kind of like that. So yeah, and then you mentioned there's a lot of movement to possibly moving the men's game to quarters, just like everything else is. The women's game is already. Obviously, every other level of basketball, that's the way it's played. So hopefully, I do hope that happens, because it's nice to, that's one thing I guess that I've always hated, no matter what the sport is. If and some things are there because they make sense for the level of play. I get that, but when you're talking about like a general outline of how the game is played, and you're making the rules different at different levels of it, like if you're trying to get other people invested in a sport, that is the worst possible thing you can do, because then it makes it confusing as hell. Like somebody's watching, like, oh, why didn't they, what the hell's going on? It's only the first, right? And they're like, oh no, it's halftime. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. I don't know why college basketball has always been this way, and how that was ever decided. But yeah, I would be on board with that, going to the quarters. That would make a lot of sense. I mean, we have a lot of those built-in media timeout times anyways. So why not fit into a proper quarter schedule like everything else?
I mean, pretty much every sport, like at least popular in America, that has a quarter type or whatever period type of system, kind of has that setup. I know hockey only does 3, but that's different because of the time when this is a different type of game. But of course, soccer does halves, and that's about the only other one I can think of. Everything else kind of does 4 quarters. So yeah, it is. I mean, like, it's obviously someone who watches it consistently is just used to it, adjusted. It's not a big deal, but it does, a lot. You just talking with, the general public, or just somebody that kind of flips something on and maybe they don't watch it too often. Like, man, this is a high scoring game. It's like, no, that's actually second half, not second quarter. Like, they only got about 8 minutes left in the whole game. Mm-hmm. And I mean, while they're at it, and this is probably a little bit too much, maybe this will come with the next round of changes, but get rid of that damn possession era too. Like, it doesn't take long. Toss the ball up. Jump ball is a jump ball. Like, that's the definition of the the reason that was put in the game. It's like you jump for the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a little electronic box that you look at and say, oh, that's whose ball it is. Because especially because a lot of times with that, to me, it's like the defense makes an amazing play to force a tie up. And, oh, it's too bad, possession errors of offense, and you don't get the ball.
Yeah.
Like, at least you have a 50-50 shot, the other way, because you made the play. Like, you should have some type of, I guess, reward, or some type of, get a bit of benefit, or at least a chance of, increasing your probability of winning because you made a play, not, based on some, electronic thing. So I would push for that as well. Of course, that might be asking for too much, but I would like to see that go away too, just because. Like I mean, that's the nature of the reason that's in the game is jump ball. It's it's a 50-50 deal.
Yeah, I like that too. I do like that. So here's an interesting little piece of this deal too. They said that there are some points of emphasis for officials as well that they approved to, quote, improve the flow of the game. End quote. Those include telling officials to address delay of game tactics, limit time spent at the monitor, which we were just talking about, so that would be a good thing if it actually is reality, and then improve game administration efficiency and reduce physicality. So we'll see. I mean, obviously some of those things you can't control really, but yeah, I would love to see them, obviously cut down on the time. Like you said, sometimes where it's pretty obvious, it needs to be a quick buzzer, heading in the headphone. Hey, this needs to be the call. Tell the guy, okay, let's go, let's roll. It seems like we waste, first it's the call, then it's like, oh, well, what was the millisecond of the time that we got to change it to? Like, let's just get it close and call it a day.
Well, then you got to factor in the coaches, ripping, each coach got to take their turn ripping the ref's ass in between that, that replay. So it's like, well, then there's another, 5 or 6 minutes. And even with the, points of emphasis, it's how they usually term it with these, they want to look at this, make sure, keep an eye on this. It usually lasts like a week, couple 3, 4, 5. I guess basketball would be longer, maybe 10 games in the season. But with football, it's like 3 or 4 weeks, and then they just stop calling it altogether.
Yeah.
So it's like it's almost like you got to hit a quota, and then like, okay, we're good. Just go back to the
Yeah.
to the old system.
Yeah. It looks like we tried. The other thing too, the officials will have the option to call a flagrant 1 foul now for contact to the groin area. I guess previously such a call was either a common foul or a flagrant 2, which mean you were ejected. So now they can.
Man, Caruso would have liked that the other night. I know that to me it didn't seem like intentional by the letter of the law, but man, it doesn't the feel doesn't change.
No, it
So
doesn't hurt any less.
it felt intentional. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no kidding. So interesting stuff. We'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, like you said, as the season gets going, and how long is some of this stuff implemented? How does it start to affect the flow of the game, especially with the challenges stuff? We'll see how that plays out. But definitely interesting with those rules, and I do appreciate the fact that it seems like these last 2-3 years, we finally, in every level of like lots of sports, have finally started to listen to what people complain about and are making movements towards streamlining things. I know there are some things that aren't great still, but especially like the quarters thing, I think would be an example. There's probably a lot of people that just bitched about that for a long time. Now we're actually considering it, so I think those are good things. Moving on to the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. It has been one hell of a series between Edmonton and Florida. If you have not watched, I would recommend doing so. Most of these games have been just absolutely barn burners. Maybe the last one not as much. Florida comes away yesterday with a win 5-2 to go up 3-2 in the series. So they've got a stranglehold on possibly winning a back-to-back cups here. And they're on one hell of really for a franchise, this is a heater. Like, they've been there 3 years in a row, about to maybe win 2, back-to-back cups, which is really, really hard in the salary cap era. We've seen a couple of teams do it now. The Penguins were the first to do it. The Lightning then did it a few years ago, and now it looks like the Panthers might have that chance. But I wouldn't count Edmonton totally out of this either. If you watched on Thursday night, that game was just incredible. Like, the teams were duking it out. 3-0 Florida lead. Edmonton comes back in the second, ties it up 3-3, and then they go back and forth. A goal with 20 seconds left on the clock for Florida to send it to overtime, and then there was just some milli-inch chances on both sides for both teams to cap it off, and then it turns out to be just like kind of a fluke chance. Draisaitl just kind of one-handed pushes a puck over, and it hits off of a guy's knee who bends down to block it and then goes through the 5-hole, and they win the game. So that kind of stuff has been happening, and it's fun to watch. These two teams are very obviously, I think, very deserving of being in this position, and they've produced a pretty damn good series here so far. I hope we get a win from Edmonton coming up here on Tuesday night to push this thing to 7, because it's what the series deserves. But it's been a fun one so far.
Yeah, that game you referenced, apologize because I follow it close enough to remember all the cast of characters' names there on the table, because sometimes it extends to 5 or 6 guys there during the halftime breaks. But either way, they were, there was 3-0 I think after the second, right? And so maybe second or first, either way, whenever it's 3-0, they had a break, and they were I was just peeking in here or there whenever I had time to check in the score update, and it's like, crap, 3-0. I was like, well, maybe I'll check back later. And then by that time I checked, it was 3-3. But at the time when it was 3-0, whatever the whoever was on the mic at that time said, man, it'd be 6-0, if it wasn't for the goal play. And so basically like saying like how good, he was doing despite the 3 goals given up, just because of the, how Florida was just like kind of all over him, and just the shots are coming from every direction. And not only just, of course you look at like, shots on goal, just as a stat itself, but there's a difference between that and like actually like quality shots, or where you could actually score a goal rather than just like something that the freaking goalie puts his glove out and snags it. Like, not necessarily like maybe like a legitimate shot, but stat wise it counts as that. But so that kind of caught me off guard there, because Florida just been kind of, especially offensively, they've been just rolling. So I wasn't necessarily expected like they would. I was like, it's over, but I was also like, if they're gonna lose, it's gonna be like 7-6, 8-7. They were gonna have to make a hell of a run, but they did it. Somehow they figured it out. So that was a little. But honestly, I do think. I mean, I'm still going to lean that way. I've always kind of leaned the way. I just think they had the. I just think they maybe have a lot of offense, and let alone for any team. It just I don't it's almost like to me it seems like unprecedented. I need to go look at these numbers and see, like, I just don't remember like that consist like you have a team that score like 5 and the next game it's like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Then it's 6 and then it's like maybe 1. It's like, dude, they're like 5, 6, 4, 7, that maybe
Yeah.
3 is like the low end.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of surprising. It's just like, how do they freaking, and you think like, oh, here comes the game. If you, especially if you're someone that's like a casual better, even just like someone that follows the NHL and like, I'm gonna, but they've been doing this too much. There's no way again. But it's like they kind of break the trends. It seems like at least this team does. And I don't know if you caught this, but I guess it's been like, I know it's been brought up a lot of times with other sports too. But it's like it's not the only state that does. But they talk about the tax deal and not having to pay state tax. Like, dude,
Oh.
there's hockey teams in Texas too. They don't have state taxes. I
Yeah.
mean, few others that I think just New Jersey maybe. I know at one point they didn't. But either way, it's like they were just trying to like whoever it was, and I think he was a former player too. And you would know, I don't know if you caught this or not, but Bettman was actually on the commissioner was on the table
Oh,
with
okay.
him. And he, I mean, basically, he just freaked. He went back at him like I think he even mentioned like how he was dressed. I mean, he was getting personal on him because he didn't like that notion of being like kind of like, and it almost like he was. I mean, I don't think he was trying to like go like kind of scorched earth and be like, oh, you're rigging this system, but he was kind of trying to get a response to being like, people are saying this, like what is he maybe just didn't like word it the
Put it
right
the right
way,
way,
being
yeah.
like more of a former player than like an actual like journalist or someone like could maybe like is used to asking questions to somebody. So it kind of got out of sorts there. But I do think like the intention was probably like legitimate because it has been like a talking point. And I don't get why. I guess maybe people didn't realize that and somebody told them, and now all of a sudden it's like the hot thing to say. But I mean, I don't know. Like I guess it's a little bit of an advantage, but I don't think like I don't know. Maybe it's different. Maybe if I have to be in that situation, I just don't think people are going to go to a team just because of that. So
No.
to me, it doesn't hold. It's like probably a factor, but also it's like, have you been to South Florida most of the year? Like outside of Miami, like it's not that it ain't like much of a thing to like be like, oh, this place is awesome. Like you get off the beach or whatever for a few miles, and you're like, I don't know about this. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, going forward, like I do still kind of favor the Panthers. Of course, it's not like I'm the only one. I don't know. I feel like I see a hard line of even getting to another game after this. So like right now, just looking at the book, like the minus 1.5 on the puck line is getting you plus money. So for me, I'd probably just like go crazy with that. But even at the same time, if you're not like, I think there could be another. They could force another game, extend the series over 6.5, which combined goals with a team like Florida that's probably going to get you 3 or 4, you can get plus money, plus 100. So 7 goals combined.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good bet on top of that. So that's, I guess, looking forward. That'd be the kind of things those would be the two I'd like there on Tuesday night.
Yeah, I get you, and I'm with you there too with the goal scoring. Like it's just incredible when your low mark so far in the finals is 3, which is just unheard of. I think.
That's hard to do like in PE class.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No kidding. Wild stuff. And yeah, it'll be fun to see that. I do think you're right. I mean, it certainly has a big stranglehold right now here for Florida, and they would certainly be pretty heavily, I think, favored here in this one to finish it out because it is at home. So will be interesting. Yeah, and if you're talking about the state thing, I mean, we'd be talking about every sport at this point and every team winning it from those states, and that hasn't happened. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the guy that's getting paid the most amount of money in the history of the world lives in the state that's going to take the most money away from him right now. So, I mean, whatever. I mean,
Yeah, I know. Last time I checked, Orlando Magic isn't pulling down the Larry O'Brien Trophy very often.
Yeah.
So
I
I
mean,
believe they're in the same state. I don't know. My geography's not great, but
yeah. Well, and it's got to be too. Like, I think that becomes much more of a lure point if it's a guy who's like, going to play 1 or 2 more years. Like, this is
right.
my last stop. Like, I got to go make as much as I can. I'm going to do it with a team I think can win, and I'm going to go to a place that's going to be beneficial to me financially. That makes sense. Yeah, you're going to get a few more of those guys maybe, and that is an advantage. But as far as the really great players that are getting paid a lot, I mean, you're splitting hairs here with how much money they're making, and I don't think they think about it that hard. So it is, yeah, maybe not as big of a factor as we want to make it out to be.
When you think of the highest paid players, it's like they don't want. I mean, they kind of want to be the guy. They don't want to go play with somebody else. So it's not, and you only have so much money to work with, and also at the same time, it's like, I mean, how many players can you have? Right? There's a limited roster. You can't just pay everybody and say, "Don't worry, buddy. There's no state tax. So let's just come on in. Have a roster of 70 players." Like I don't think that's in the guidelines there. So I mean, I guess it's kind of like whenever a team has success, you got to find something to kind of pick at and be like, well, this is the reason they're other than being just having good coaches, good players, a good run organization, maybe having like a, whatever, like what do you want to call it, like a foundation, a blueprint for success. Instead of saying that, it's a lot easier to be like, well, they don't have taxes, so that's why they're good.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing too that I think a lot of casual people probably don't realize either is that's only beneficial for half your games essentially. It's like your home games because these guys pay taxes in every freaking state that they play in. Yeah. So they're paying all over the place, like whatever it is, and then you've got surtaxes from the cities themselves. Sometimes, like it's insane. I don't. It makes my head spin when you see some of those stubs. If you've ever seen that before, where it's like gives you the laundry list of all the little things that they've got to pay. Like it's beneficial because you're at home more, but it's not a all absolving deal because you live in that state, so it's different.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up because I mean, I was thinking of it more like in the window, or I guess of the whatever, looking at it in the lens of like the fight game, because a lot of won't take fights in certain states because of the fact that they know they might be offering you $1 million, but in that state $1 million is not $1 million and wherever else. So like people like Nevada's one that's why it's kind of like the fight capital, because it's a little bit more profitable there than maybe like a California or a New York, where there's a little bit more higher on that end. So, and then throwing regulations and what's allowed, not allowed, and you got a whole nother angle there where it's like you could probably get a fight here in this state, but probably not in this state. So that factors into, and of course I know it's different than with professional leagues, and there's unions and there's a difference there, but just as far as the income goes, you just because my house is this in this location doesn't mean that's how you're taxed.
Yeah, for sure. So interesting little wrinkle there. Moving on to another event that, of course, maybe gets more attention here in our part of the country, maybe than some others. But it does turn into kind of a big deal, and I think a lot of people do pay attention to it, even though they probably don't follow the sport in general, very feverishly throughout the regular season. But when it comes time for the postseason, College World Series always gets a little bit of love, and it is a fun event. Obviously, we've been lucky enough to live close to it to be able to experience it quite a bit, SJ, and it's a great thing for the city of Omaha for sure. It does provide a really good, college type atmosphere when you get those fan bases all coming together in one place. Most of them like to have a good time, so the Jello shots start flowing, and it's just a good atmosphere. You meet a lot of people. Typically my experience has been is if I go to a game, I end up having at least like one brief conversation with somebody from somewhere, other part of the country, and they explain why they're here or why they're seeing it, and it's just a good time. I got a chance to take my boy on Friday actually for the opening game. It was just kind of a whim type thing. Tickets were cheap in the morning. I'm like, shit, maybe I should try to get out of here and go do it. So we did, and it was a good time. It turned out to be a pretty good game in that opener. Coastal Carolina knocked off Arizona in that first one. But it is. There's been some good baseball here so far, and for folks that maybe have been following along, the first 2 days I mentioned, Coastal was a winner. Oregon State won the nightcap over Louisville 4-3, and then yesterday's game saw UCLA beat Murray State 6-4, and LSU top Arkansas 4-1. So then today we had one elimination contest and then one on the winner's side of the bracket. So Arizona has been knocked out. Louisville beat them 8-3. Scored 6 runs in the 8th inning there today to knock them down. So that's got to be a little bit of a heartbreaker. Especially when it was it was what, a 3-2 game, 3-2 game heading into that 8th inning, and then you get those 6 runs. So tough one there for Arizona to swallow. But Louisville moves on. And then in the nightcap, it was Coastal Carolina advancing and staying unbeaten 6-2 over Oregon State. They really do have a great squad. It's interesting because you get some of these teams where you're like, oh, that's maybe the underdog, the outlier, the name you don't hear all the time. Well, they've been favored, I think, in every game that they've played, and they've proven it here so far. They're pretty solid.
Well, I mean, they've got a national title under their belt, so I think the first time they came through, people were like, who the hell are these Chanticleers, like it was more just like a crazy nickname, and then whatever, being, where's Coastal Carolina, where's that even at?
Yeah.
Now it's like they're actually like a legitimate program, which is kind of crazy because they haven't even been, on that level for very long. So to do the work they've done is pretty impressive. But it's, you speak about the event as overall, I'm kind of disappointed. Who knows? Maybe something will turn up here, but I'm probably not gonna be able to make it up there this year. Usually try to at least get opening weekend's the best weekend if it's just kind of everybody's there, good times or whatever. Like kind of got a lot of anticipation still, and no one's really like I guess Arizona was the 2 and Q today, first team out, but I mean. Usually when I'm in town or when I had games, everyone's still kind of alive and still kind of has that hope of who knows, maybe we'll make a run. So it's a lot of good energy around there. But the probably the most thing that sticks out to me as most is just like you said, the conversations and kind of I think it's like, especially a city like that, like there's a lot of them around the country where it's like people have like a perception of like what it's like or maybe what they're going to be heading into before they get there, and then like. Oh man, there's a lot of things to do here. It's fun. Like, of course, you get the drover thrown out there. Everyone's got to go get. I mean, and I think like people are like, oh, yeah, this place is awesome, and I don't know if they really pass along the information of the price points of a place like that. It's not like it's not like going to your neighborhood bar or whatever. It's you spend a little bit of cheese to go to that place. So I'm not saying it's not good, but it's like everyone just like, oh yeah, go to the drover. It's like. Well, I mean, you got $100 to spend on dinner. Like, if you do, go for it. But if not, maybe that's not the place. But that deal, and then it's like everyone's always like, "Man, it's freaking humid here." Like, yeah, I mean, you think middle of the country, like that's probably pretty nice, and like maybe like 75, 80. But I mean, the summers, it's almost like. I mean, not to speak bad of it, because I mean, I've obviously grew up, at least in that state, and then spent some time there, and I'm not, it's not a negative thing, but it's like honestly, they kind of have like the worst weather in the winter and the worst weather in the summer. Like it's I mean, it's not a I don't know, it's not a good weather place. Like there's a lot of good things about it, but the weather is not one of them. It's just so like I think people are usually surprised about that. It's always kind of fun to see the whatever man on the street type of pieces that you get from that, but yeah, I mean, it's been some pretty good baseball, and like I like the fact that because I know when it first opened, and God, I freaking I mean, I don't have like a personal tie to this, and I just get up there when I can, and I watch it quite a bit, especially the World Series. But even like baseball, it'd be nice to see my team back up there one day. But either way, like it's just like, can we please just the year that I don't hear freaking Rosenblatt again, maybe I'll look at getting some high end tickets or something. It's like, dude, we got to move on. Like, I get that it was fun or whatever, and like what I tell everybody is like, man, people liked it because you get drunk for like $10.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I mean, that's why it was good. Like the stadium was a shithole. Mm-hmm. Like I understand, like when it first started, it's like but towards the end, like there was no way they would be. I mean, that is an economic boom for that city. Like the downtown of that area, at least like the Capital District and then the north side of downtown, what it is now, like that would not exist if they would have lost the College World Series, and they would have if they would have tried to
Keep it,
revamp or
yeah.
revitalize, because I know they looked at ways to like maybe we can keep this and
Hmm.
gussy it up or whatever and make it work, but it just wasn't possible. But I kind of what I was bring that up to say, like, I'm glad they adjusted and kind of put some more offense back in play with like the bats and the balls, and
Yeah.
because the way they built it probably wasn't the best as far as like orientation of it, how it
Hmm.
facing and with the wind and all that type of thing. But I'm sure there is a reason for that when you're that close to the river and the drainage and how the maybe the soil wasn't great right there. So I mean that's stuff people probably don't think about, but it factors in. So, but
Yep.
man, I just it's I mean I don't see how you can really complain about it, but every year it's just like, remember Rosenblatt? I was like,
Hmm.
bro, like, yeah, I remember Rosenblatt. I was sitting in a freaking beer garden with like a tent with metal poles while we're in a lightning delay. Yeah, that was great. Like, I'm literally sitting next to like a whatever, like a 6 foot friggin' conductor of electricity.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, this should go well.
Hmm. Yeah. 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 You're not wrong. Like, it's always, of course, different in the moment too, and at the time, like everybody like holds on to that nostalgia
Yeah,
really hard, especially when it's going to happen. And I get that a little bit, but you're right. I mean, it's been what, how friggin' long now? I mean, a
yeah,
decade.
it's like
Like,
a decade, yeah, at
yeah,
least, yeah,
we're
yeah.
good. Like,
Move
yeah,
on, bro.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's nice. You're right. You're right. And obviously for what it needs to accommodate, it makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. Like, there's a lot of hotels, there's a lot of restaurants, there's a
yeah,
lot of everything down there that fits this bill. And I was even surprised. Like, I appreciated it when I left the stadium. Me being the just having a dumb moment. I was like, oh, let's just go out this gate and we'll move this way. Well, I started walking the wrong direction to get back to where I'd parked. So I get down to, a few blocks. I'm like, oh shit, we went the wrong way. But even then I was like noticing like, oh, there's still so much that like is being geared towards all these people being here, even though this isn't necessarily like what you would consider prime downtown area anymore either. So I think that's cool that, you get so much of the city that gets involved and helps support this thing and makes it fun. It is cool to see that. And yeah, I mean, it's a great stadium. Like, you hardly a bad seat in the place too if you've been there. Like, it's you can see everywhere you sit. There's not a lot to complain about it, I don't think. And I think everybody that goes still has a great time. And yeah, it is what it is now at this point. The only thing I did see the other day, I haven't read into this though. Apparently, there's talk that Creighton now is getting intent on building a field now, baseball and softball. Part of that, I guess, the reasoning is because they need more places for these teams to practice when they come for the College World Series, which is like, okay, I get that, but can't you just make a little practice field? Like, I don't know. It sounds like they intend on playing some games at this new place, and that to me that would just be like stupid. Like, what the hell are we doing? What are we going to do with this other thing that's sitting there? That was part of the intention in the first place. They really wanted the AAA team to go play,
yeah.
and they didn't. They just couldn't afford it. So I don't know. That would be a travesty in my mind if somebody doesn't just play there all the time either.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to me, but like, I mean, I don't care for that school. I guess you'd call it university if you will. But but to me, it's more like the fact that they can't fill it up. That's their issue.
Yeah, yeah,
I would think that's probably more of it. I mean, unless you're playing Nebraska, no one's in those seats.
yeah.
So that's about the only time you get any big fans in there. But that would and also it's probably a little bit of a little jealousy of Omaha's got a pretty nice complex there in Aksarben,
Mm-hmm.
that's home field there for them. So they'd be the only university within that 50-mile their radius that doesn't have their own
Yeah, true, true.
facility. So that could be part of it too. But yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, but I mean, it seems
Yeah.
like maybe it's just more of like a leverage thing at this point, because who knows? Maybe the rent's due and then the lease is
Yeah.
coming up.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well,
But I mean, you didn't mention the Jello shots, so I want to hit on that because
yeah.
I mean, I guess it's fun and we get all that, but I was like, that's a hell of a like just for like the attention part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and like I mean, they literally donate that money to like good causes and
Yeah.
charities and things. So like I know we're just like all partying and getting drunk and doing all this shit, and like even like I mean, Circus been like embedded. Like they were shooting that their daily podcasts and stuff live from Rocco's.
Oh,
They
nice.
set up the studio, and I mean they were throwing some coin in. I mean that's a hell of a property there in Vegas, and they got the of course the stadium swim deal. That's a
Mhm.
big deal out there that everyone kind of talks about. But I mean, just getting the the notoriety part of it is like I think is like probably one of the biggest things that's come out of there because I mean that was just like I don't know who thought of it. Whoever does better not be working anymore. Like they should be set for life. That was just like you who would have thought that would have been like catch on the. I mean they have their own like at least I mean I'm not on a lot of social media but at least Twitter I'm pretty consistent on especially with the show and like they have their own page just for like it's like the Jello shot Rocco's Jello shot their own dedicated page just for that. So
Yeah.
it's like, obviously they're getting a lot of interactions and that type of thing. So I think it's a pretty cool deal. I mean, I don't think LSU has anybody has any chances of catching them or beating them. They
Yeah.
had like 9,000 after like the first couple day or so. But I mean, either way, like it's just, I mean, I think it's like it's like one of the best things that's come out of there since like, God, I don't know what I'm trying to think back to the old days of like those little buckets you used to be able to get there at Paulie's,
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
like whatever the hell kind of juice that was. I don't
Yeah.
know what that was, but it
Mhm.
tastes good.
Yeah. Yeah. And God, what was the? I'm trying to think of what the bar was. It's closed down now. There, of course. Damn it, I can't remember. There was the whatever it was right across the street from where Zesto's was. There was a place there that was known, for everybody stopping because it was just on the way, like everybody walking. Yeah, so they had a giant beer garden. Yeah, it's always fun. But yeah, you're right. Like the marketing thing is just like brilliant. Like whoever thought of that? I mean, from I'm sure that when they started doing it, it's like, oh, this is a good business idea, like we're get
Make some
people
money, yeah,
suckered in,
extra money, yeah.
yeah. Now, of course, yeah, doing it for good cause is awesome too. So it's cool to see and the attention that it does get. And yeah, and every time, any year the LSU gets in, you're like, oh, there's going to be the winner. Those people are nuts. That's what they do. It makes sense that the kings of partying are the folks from Louisiana. But so they're obviously they are in a winners game coming up tomorrow night. LSU, UCLA, and then Arkansas, Murray State play tomorrow afternoon in the elimination game at 1:00. So that's where the CWS stands right now. Getting in one quick thing we wanted to hit on SJ. What's a UFC card and some other fight stuff going on here over the weekend? And I think you did pretty well for yourself.
Yeah, not too bad. We cashed in on the big ones at least. One was a little bit of I guess two. So two were like a letdown, but one was like we had the right winner, but not the right finish. So that was Michael Chiesa. So like honestly, that was like a shit fight. I was like I kind of wanted them to both lose that type of thing. But we got in the early goings there, I guess the prelim variety of the show, the UFC in Atlanta last night or Saturday night. Malcolm Wellmaker, and this is like a dude that's like on the come up. But I mean, literally, it's like kind of one of those you can see. It's like, oh, this is going to be like kind of. I don't know if you want to call him like the next star, but it's like he's kind of got all the ingredients to really, at least be championship type level. And I took him to win in under 1.5. And oh man, I'm kicking myself after because I was like, I had the knockout in round one, kind of fired off and ready to go, but I was like, I give myself a little more time. And of course, he finished in the first round, so I was like, that would have given me plus money. I was still about like minus 150, and I went pretty heavy on that one, so I got a good return on that. And then also in the co-main event, got a Rose Namajunas by unanimous decision. She hit that one, so that was like minus 125. So bad about even money, honestly. So decent there. Main event was kind of like my long shot. Joaquin Buckley was against Kamaru Usman, and Usman's had been a champion and kind of reigned there supreme for a little bit, and it was kind of I was taking a risk. So I'm like, is he kind of yesterday's news, or does he still have anything left? And honestly, based on the performance, if I mean, Buckley had been on a pretty good streak there, but I was like, I guess I assumed he could like defend a simple, basic, everyday takedown, and apparently he couldn't. Uh, yeah, I couldn't last night for whatever reason. Maybe Usman just has that great of a shot, but I don't think that's the case. So I guess I kind of just like overlooked on my end the fact that he couldn't wrestle at all. And the annoying thing was in the later rounds, especially in the fifth round, he freaking defended it actually pretty well and sprawled and was able to stay on his feet. I was like, why couldn't you have done that the first 3 or 4 rounds? And you'd probably be in this. So I went a long shot on him, and I actually took him to win by a finish, which was plus 130. So I missed on that one. But I mean, a decent night for like a fight night. And like I said, the only one that kind of really pissed me off was that first one I mentioned, was because Chiesa won by I think like 3 or 4 in a row by sub, and he was fighting Court McGee, who's like 65 years old. Not literally, but damn near. And he just like couldn't do nothing with him. And he won a decision. I was like, I kind of wanted. It was one of those fights where you bet on it, and you're like, man, as poorly as you performed, I'm okay with losing this bet as long as you lose too. Like I was kind of over it. I was like, man, you literally freaking had this bum in front of you and you couldn't do anything with him. So that was a little disheartening, but we made up for it with the other two because I went pretty heavy on those. Was confident in those. So decent for like a fight night. But here, like at the end of the month here coming up, there's actually a pretty good card there. So we're looking forward to that. And then in July, there's like some pretty good, we get boxing coming up as well. So should be a decent month and a half or 2 months here of fights coming up.
All right, look forward to that. Of course, always follow along on the social media there on Twitter at SJM Bets, at Cherokee CP. Those are the places where you can see what we're kind of picking at here and day in and day out. And SJ always does a pretty good job of getting you that graphic put together for those big fight days. So make sure you're following along there to see our picks. And then, of course, we'd love it if you would like, subscribe, and share the podcast, available on all the major podcast platforms, including our home at Spotify. And then if you want to like, subscribe, get the notifications on the YouTube channel, we'd appreciate that as well. We do post some picked videos there from time to time, especially when we come to some major type events. We'll do that for you and sprinkle some of that in. And you can also find the show there too, so that's always a good feed to just keep tabs on if that's a platform that you like to use. So you can do that there as well. That's kind of what we had on our rundown list here this week for you. Of course, we'll be following along here with what goes on in these last few games in the NBA and the NHL, and then, of course, the College World Series as well. As it gets down to the nitty-gritty, we'll know who's in that championship series here by the end of the week. So we'll be following along with that. We've been doing a little bit of plays mixed in with that, too, on the socials, so you can see that here or there. Obviously, we're not experts on those types of things, but you're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing something stick sometimes. I did have to kick myself in that first game. I was kind of joking, as I'm sitting there and people get a kick out of it. I was like, all right, come on, I need a couple runs here in this inning and we're going to pay for that snow cone. Like I made the mistake that, I typically do is, instead of just betting the things separately, I put them together. And had the over 9 runs in that first game, which it got to. It was pretty comfortable with that, the way it played out early on. And then I had Arizona hanging around, staying within a run and a half, and they couldn't quite do that there at the end. So unfortunate. But that's the way it goes, and that, I guess it's a cautionary tale. I know like you like to do, and I should start doing this, is a little bit of skin on each thing, and then do the parlay, and then you're not feeling so bad about yourself at the end of the day, because at least you got a W in the column.
Yeah, it's usually helps out a little bit. It's nothing's ever guaranteed in this world, but at least we're willing to admit that, unlike others out there. But yeah, that's especially baseball. I was like, man, I get the prop thing. Probably I'd feel a little more comfortable with, but man, baseball's you want to talk about hockey being tough. Baseball, just because it's like an everyday thing, you don't really know what you're gonna get, because it's like doesn't mean that someone didn't come to play that day. It's there's such a small margin for error in that sport that it's really hard to peg there. So even look at tonight. I didn't the College World Series didn't play out so well, but had the Dodgers on with it in MLB game, so help trying to cushion it there. So it's just even the hot streaks in baseball aren't so hot, so it's a little bit different of a game, but Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have some fun with it and see. Maybe who knows? Well, maybe we'll get on a streak and get us some Jello shots rolling, and who knows what happens after
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Jello shots will always be there for all the folks over there in Omaha. So, all right, that's going to do it here for us this week. We appreciate you joining us. That's SJ Munoz. I'm Chris Parks. Thanks for joining us for another week of Every Day We're Covering. We'll see you next time for some more covers.